The Las Vegas Raiders just made a really smart decision by going with Aidan O'Connell to start this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you agree with that, click that like button. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you, and I know a lot of you are like, wait, Mitch, you think it's a smart decision? I think for a lot of people that have followed me this week and a lot of the things that I've been saying, yes, I do think it is a smart decision for the Raiders to go with number 12 up against Pittsburgh. And then at the very end of today's show, I'm going to tell you the 4 teams that are interested in trading for Davante Adams. But if you listen to what Antonio Pierce said today, doesn't sound like a trade is a lock to happen. If anything, it sounds like Davante could play for the Raiders at some point this season. So the reason here why the Raiders decided to go with Aiden, and the reason why this is a big story, obviously, is Gardner Minshew. He's been the Raiders' starting quarterback for the majority of this season, and when Aiden and Minshew had their quarterback battle this offseason, the team decided to go with Minshew. However, though, Antonio Pierce said that the team would hold a competition throughout the entirety of the week, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice, to then ultimately decide who's going to be that starting quarterback up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do find it very interesting, and I'll tell you exactly why I believe the Silver and Black decided to name Aidan O'Connell the starter today, but this was something that I didn't know if AP was going to do. I'll admit there was a part of me that I was like, well, maybe we shouldn't tip the cap to Pittsburgh right away to make them prepare for both Aiden or Gardner. But to me, the Raiders made the smart decision by going with Aidan O'Connell. The first reason is this. I do think at some point, you got to switch it up. If Gardner was out there just absolutely slinging the pill, then I'd be like, well, then it maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes, this offense at its absolute best this season, which has been that fourth quarter against Baltimore, the second and third quarter against the Cleveland Browns, the first quarter last week as well against the Broncos, has all been Gardner Minshew. And I'll admit, I don't think Aiden has looked all that good this season. His first appearance that he got, he was 9-12 for a touchdown. Probably should have threw an interception, though, before the touchdown throw. Last week, his first play against the Denver Broncos, throws a pick against Patrick Surtain. My point is, though, Gardner Minshew had no confidence in himself. When you saw that interception he threw to Patrick Surtain, the rest of that game, Minshew didn't have any confidence. So to me, you got to not only switch it up from a team standpoint, because when your quarterback goes out there and he doesn't believe in himself, it's hard to really motivate your team, especially the offense that is struggling. So at the end of the day, I think it's a smart move because you have to be able to go out there and switch it up a little bit. The Raiders need to switch up some mojo this week. Let's go to another one here. I think this is more of a long-term thought process where I have said that I still think Gardner has more talent than Aiden, but you have to be able to evaluate what Luke Getsy is. Gardner Minshew and Luke Getsy has been a bad combination. Luke Getsy and Justin Fields last season was a bad combination. If Luke Getsy and Aidan O'Connell is also a bad relationship, if you will, maybe it's all on Luke Getsy. Or you could say, well, Mitch, maybe it is on Aidan O'Connell as well. My point is, though, for the Raiders, if Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco want to be around next season, and it does look like that they're going to potentially have a high pick, that they should potentially go out and get a quarterback, I don't want Luke Getsy to be the OC next season. And for the Raiders, you have to make sure that all those boxes are checked off, where then if Mark Davis goes, why should I keep you around? Antonio Pierce and Telesco can go, well, it was the OC's fault. This is one of those ways where you can figure out everything that you have for this upcoming season. Let's go to the next reason here of why I think it's a smart move to go with Aidan O'Connell. Can we get a little Andy Dalton magic? I mean, we saw in week 3 when your team switches its QB, and I'm talking about Carolina, because what the Carolina Panthers did up against the Las Vegas Raiders in week 3 is, I think, every reason why, as a Raider fan, you should be sitting here going, all right, even if you don't believe in Aiden, even if you're like, I don't believe in Luke Getsy, there's no way that we're going to win this football game. I bet you a lot of Panthers fans were saying that exact same thing. I bet you a lot of Raiders fans were saying there's no way the Carolina's going to beat the Raiders. Sometimes when you just switch it up a little bit, it motivates your team. Also, though, you don't have any tape. The Pittsburgh Steelers have no tape realistically this season. The only tape that they've gotten is in garbage time. Garbage time tape compared to actual tape is very different. So if I'm the Raiders, I take everything that I've been doing with Aiden. And sure, you're going to do a little different things as well with Luke. But for Pittsburgh, they have to go out and they have to plan for something that they haven't seen compared to Gardner Minshew, which the last time Gardner Minshew did play against Pittsburgh, I found this stat, thought it was kind of cool. He threw for 215 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and his team ended up getting a dub. My question, though, that I want to ask to all of you out there, and this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, how many touchdowns Will Aidan O'Connell throw this week up against the Pittsburgh Steelers? My answer after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to go with 2 touchdowns. That's the number that I'm hoping AOC can chuck it. And I know that I've been somebody where I've been saying, like, all right, we already got to look forward to the next season. All it takes is one game. All it takes is a little bit of mojo. And if the Raiders go out and you get a win this week and you go back to 3-3, we get that mojo going again. The Raiders need to really lean on Aiden. They need to lean on their running game. You got to get this entire team going. But the most important thing is you can't turn over the football. The Raiders right now are ranked dead last in the NFL in turnovers per game. They've turned the ball over 9 times. If Aiden could play clean football the way that he was doing at the end of last season, then the Raiders have a shot to win this freaking football game. Let's go to the next reason. This might be one of the biggest. The Raiders wanted Aidan O'Connell to start. When I say the Raiders, I mean the players and the team. I spoke to a few people literally right before I hopped up on here, and the consensus was the reason why Antonio Pierce named Aidan O'Connell the starter today and did not allow it to go to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday competition is because I was told several players on that Raiders team went up to Antonio Pierce, went up to the decision makers and said, it's got to be Aidan O'Connell. That's why there was this exact message today, because stepping up to that podium, I think a lot of people were wondering what AP was going to say, and because AP said just a few days ago that it was going to be a battle, the fact that it was named today, it's because multiple players went up to Antonio Pierce and said, you got to start number 12. We got to try to change something up. And then here's the final reason. He's been good at home. Like, Aiden has been a much different quarterback when he's been at home compared to being on the road. So if you're the Raiders and you're already thinking about switching up your QB, why not give him the situation to play at home? I'll say this. Based on the reports from Vivid Seats, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now are projected to take up 56% of that Allegiant Stadium, so it might still be a little bit of a road game. However, 56% Steelers, whatever the hell that other number is, 44% for the Raiders. Aidan O'Connell at home in his career, 4-2 record, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 94.4 quarterback rating. I'll admit, 4 of those touchdowns came in one game against the Chargers, but hey, all I know is this. The Raiders need a little bit of a momentum change. They need to get it going, and we saw how big momentum changes games. I'm hoping that momentum changes this season, and that's why it's smart to go with Aidan O'Connell. Now, if you want to tune in and hang out with me and Jeremy Chugs on Sunday when the Raiders take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. We're going to be partying, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but my dad is going to be in town. There's a chance he's going to be here on Sunday partying with the entire nation. And for those that don't know, I grew up in central Pennsylvania. A lot of my dad's friends are Steelers fans. Obviously, they know what I do for work. So if you guys decide to pull up on Sunday, all I ask is this. We got to take down our Steelers channel in a Super Chat battle, and I always want to show my dad how the nation gets down and how they end up partying. Coming up next here on the show, let's get into the latest around Davante Adams, because not only are we going to talk about the teams that are interested in trading for Tay, and according to Sean Reed, 4 teams are interested, 4 teams are no longer interested. But I said earlier this week, and I think a lot of y'all would have agreed with, I said that Davante Adams will never play another game in a Raiders jersey. If you heard what Antonio Pierce said today, I'll tell you this, there is a chance that Davante Adams plays again for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I do got to give a shout-out to our sponsor here, Prize Picks, and I am going to get my Prize Picks lineup in, which I got to do it soon for the Mets game tonight for the MLB playoffs. Also, though, if anybody wants to go for Prize Picks for the Raiders game on Sunday, you can do so. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Now, for me, I was looking at the picks, and I got to give a shout out to Chugs, because originally we were looking at them yesterday, and it was like Brock Bowers, 53.5 receiving yards. Well, how about this? More or less a touchdown for Brock Bowers, either rushing or receiving up against Pittsburgh. He did just hit pay dirt for the first time last week, so maybe you're a little bit concerned about that. Here's the one thing I know, though. He's going to be a very important part of this offense. He's got 36 targets in 5 games. You know that Aiden's going to be looking for him. I haven't seen if there is a Trey Tucker more or less, and if there's a Trey Tucker more or less, Aiden's relationship with Tucker, it'll probably get updated throughout the week, but I'm just telling y'all right now, if you want a sneaky pick on Prize Picks, whatever the Trey Tucker one is, go with the more because it's going to hit. Coming up next here on the show, let's talk about the teams that are interested in trading for Davante Adams. Now, Tashawn Reed, he ended up putting out a report about teams that are interested and teams that are not interested. And the video that I put out this morning, which I found pretty interesting, and hence why I made the show, was that the Baltimore Ravens skyrocketed up the latest odds to trade for Davante Adams. That was this morning. And I know that Vegas always has its ins and its outs. Now, maybe Vegas did that because of the Edgar Allan Poe thing that Davante ended up posting over the weekend. But according to Tashawn Reed, the teams that are out and that will not trade for Davante Adams, or the Raiders will not trade him there, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Dallas Cowboys, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Washington Commanders. The teams that are still in the mix, the New York Jets, New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Buffalo Bills. So when you hear all that, I know a lot of y'all are still wondering, all right, is Davante going to get traded this week? I'll say this. I'm going to put it less than a 10% chance that Tay ends up getting dealt this week simply because he's already been ruled out with a hamstring injury. And I know that a lot of y'all, just like me, I've rolled my eyes every time I've heard hamstring injury. But when you hear some of the things that Antonio Pierce said, first off, we'll show you from Vic Tafer. Antonio Pierce said, wide receiver Davante Adams is still in good spirits and is getting healthier. He is still a Raider. And when you listen to the entire quote, AP leaves it open to the idea of, hey, once Davante comes back and he's healthy, which based on what it sounds, Davante should be healthy next week. And if Davante is still a member of the Raiders, Antonio Pierce expects him to go out there. And based on what AP said, he expects Davante to practice with the Raiders, and he expects Davante to play with the Raiders if he's available for next week. According to Vincent Bonsignor, Antonio Pierce said Davante Adams has been rehabbing from his hamstring injury at the Raiders facility. Pierce left open the door for Adams to play again this season for the Raiders when he gets healthy. He said he has spoken recently to the receiver. So the last time we heard Antonio Pierce and Davante, like how their relationship was, AP was like, you can go ask him. Davante went up and he did lie on the Kay Adams show saying he didn't talk to AP. When he did actually talk to AP and was like, oh man, you got to ask him. So here's maybe a multi-million dollar question. Will Davante Adams play another snap for the Las Vegas Raiders this season? Give me a yes. Give me a no down below. For me personally, I will still continuously say that it is unlikely that Tay ends up playing. And I think what you're seeing right now from Antonio Pierce is a little bit of, I don't know if good cop, bad cop's the right thing. He's trying to boost up Davante Adams' trade value. He knows that certain teams are interested. He knows that other teams aren't. And he obviously knows if he sits up there on the podium and he goes, Davante Adams is never going to play another game for the Las Vegas Raiders, that every single team that is interested goes, well, then that price tag goes a little bit lower. By Antonio Pierce saying what he did today does up the price tag a little bit, but I almost wonder this, right? I almost wonder if Davante went up to AP and not said, I'm sorry, but he wanted to go to the Jets and he wanted to go to the New Orleans Saints. The Jets right now, you could make the argument, are a bigger dumpster fire than the Raiders at this current moment. And Davante wanted to get away from, bad organization is essentially one of the reasons why he wanted to leave. He also wanted to play with a quarterback of his choosing. Well, the New York Jets aren't looking too good right now. So maybe Tay's looking back at that like, shit, man, maybe I shouldn't leave the Raiders and go there. And then he wanted to go play with his other buddy, Derek Carr, who's out right now with an oblique injury, and he's going to be out multiple weeks. So now he's probably sitting there going, oh, shit, man, I don't really know if I really want to go to the New Orleans Saints. But for teams like the Buffalo Bills, I think that the Bills got to really, truly get in the mix here. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are another team with all the drama they got going on right now with George Pickens. Both of those teams need a number one receiver. And what I love about this entire situation is the Jets and the Bills, they play a Monday Night Football this week. So one of those teams is going to be in the first place of that division. If the Jets win, then they're in first place. That makes the Bills then, to me, even think, all right, shit, we got to go get Davante even more. If the Jets lose, then that's maybe even more of a reason to get a little bit more aggressive and go out and get your guy. Bottom line, still plenty of teams interested in Davante, and based on what Antonio Pierce said, it was also a smart decision for him to say what he did, because that ups the price tag on Davante Adams. Let's get into a little bit more of some injury news here. Michael Mayer, he is not going to be playing week 6. He's still dealing with that personal issue. I don't know what the personal issue is. The Raiders don't know what the personal issue is, but a member from Michael Mayer's family did reach out to the Raiders and said this is something that has popped up with him before. He's still dealing with it. He wants to be a Raider. He doesn't want to be traded. He is just dealing with some personal issues. The final thing that I'll talk about today, and this is why I loved when the Raiders went out and they got Christian Wilkins, because he underwent Jones fracture surgery, and he underwent it, I want to say today, or maybe it was yesterday. Yesterday, I think he got the surgery. Today, he showed up at 6 a.m. for rehab. When you have a star player who signs the type of contract that Wilkins does, and he's showing up 6 a.m. the day after he gets a major surgery like that, that tells every player in that locker room, hey, I'm not giving up on this team. And I think the overall message that a lot of these players got to start getting together is we're not going to give up. I know how tough it is being a Raider fan. I know all y'all know how tough it is being a Raider fan. But when you get star players and leaders that do shit like this still tells me that they believe in Antonio Pierce, that they believe in the Las Vegas Raiders, that this team is still tight. There's been people like the clown Michael Lombardi trying to say that this team doesn't believe in each other, this team is doing really bad. Based on what I understand from certain guys, and based on an action like that, and based on what Antonio Pierce said, this is a team that is still a team, and they're not trying to rip each other apart. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you guys give me a follow on IG and on Twitter. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365, and if you could do me a really, really big favor. Sunday was Alex's birthday. Obviously, I had to work for the Raiders and Broncos game. If you want to help me get out of the doghouse a little bit, which I don't know. I feel like even when I'm not in the doghouse, I still have the opportunity to be in the doghouse in the snap of a finger. I posted a picture on Instagram today, some of her birthday weekend photos. If you could go on that, say happy birthday. If you want to give her a follow, just don't say anything absolutely ridiculous. And before you even put it in the comments, I know I outkicked my coverage. All right, the next time that I'm going to see you guys live, I'm going to see you live tomorrow, Thursday Night Football. I got to dress up as a Ninja Turtle. Tune into that. And if you're like, Mitch, I don't need to see you rocking out with your shell out, then make sure you pull up on Sunday. Got a giveaway. Going to have a lot of fun. And this is a battle to be the #1 channel here at Chat Sports. We're ranked number 2. Steelers is ranked number 1. Let's change that. Let's win that Super Chat battle. Let's show up. Let's show Richie how the nation gets down.